You know what's worse than finding out your wife lied to you? Finding out she told the truth and you were just too stupid to listen. Sometimes the biggest betrayals aren't the lies people tell you. They're the truths you refuse to hear. I'm sitting in this internet cafe in Quezon City, typing this out because I need someone to understand what happened to me, what I let happen to me. If our stories resonate with you, don't forget to like, comment, and tell us where you're watching from. This story was shared with us by one of our long-time viewers. He asked us not to share his name, but he wanted his experience heard. I'm 62 years old and I thought I knew how the world worked. I'd spent 34 years married to Linda back in Houston, handled insurance claims for 40 years, buried my wife when the cancer took her. I thought I understood grief, understood loneliness, understood what it meant to start over. I was wrong about everything. The day I met Milagros at St. Anthony's Church in Manila, she was playing organ for Sunday Mass. Her fingers moved across the keys like she was having a conversation with God, and something in my chest that had been dead since Linda's funeral started beating again. After the service, I approached her. "That was beautiful," I said. She looked up at me with these soft brown eyes and smiled. "Thank you, you are American." "Yes, from Texas, I'm Vernon. I am Milagros, welcome to our church." Her English was careful, practiced. We talked for 10 minutes about the music, about the heat, about nothing important. But when I walked away, I felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years. Hope. I started attending every Sunday service, sitting in the third pew, watching her play. After a month, I worked up the courage to ask her for coffee. "I cannot," she said, looking down. "I am, how do you say, still in mourning. I'm sorry, I didn't know you'd lost someone." "My husband, 3 years now. Fishing accident." The way she said it, so quietly, so final. I understood that kind of pain. "I lost my wife too." I told her. "Cancer." Something passed between us then, recognition. 2 people who understood what it meant to have your whole world die with one person. We started meeting for coffee after church. Slow, careful conversations about loss and loneliness. Milagros worked as a seamstress, taking in alterations from neighbors, playing organ for weddings and funerals. She lived in a small apartment, behind her sister's house, sent money to her mother in the province. "Life is hard when you are alone," she told me one afternoon, "but you learn to carry it." I was learning too. Learning that grief shared somehow weighs less. Learning that at 62 you can still feel your heart skip when someone smiles at you a certain way. "Would you like to have dinner with me?" I asked after 2 months of coffee dates. "Real dinner, somewhere nice." She hesitated. "I do not know if I am ready for what? For feeling alive again." But she said yes. We went to a small restaurant overlooking the bay. She wore a blue dress she'd made herself, and when she laughed at something I said, I felt like I was 25. "Again, you make me forget," she said softly. "Forget what?" "That I am supposed to be sad forever." That night, walking her home through the narrow streets, she stopped under a streetlight. "Vernon, I must tell you something. I have not been with a man since my husband died. I do not know how to do this again." "Neither do I said. "We'll figure it out together." When I kissed her goodnight, her hands were shaking. So were mine. The first month we were together felt like everything I'd lost when Linda died was being given back to me in a different form. Milagros would wake up early to make me coffee and these little rice cakes called bibinka. She'd hum while she worked, old church songs that sounded like prayers. Her fingers were always busy, sewing alterations for neighbors, counting the small bills she earned. "I work hard, Vernon," she'd tell me. "Before you, I work alone. Now I work for us." I'd watch her thread needles by candlelight when the power went out, and something in my chest would tighten. This woman had suffered, just like me. We understood each other's pain. "I want to take care of you," I told her one morning. "You don't have to work so hard anymore. I cannot let you do that. I am not that kind of woman." "What kind of woman?" "The kind who takes money from men for nothing." "It wouldn't be for nothing. It would be because I love you." The words surprised both of us. I hadn't planned to say them. She set down her coffee cup and looked at me with tears in her eyes. "You love me? Yes, I know it's crazy, but yes, I love you too," she whispered. "But I am afraid." "Of what?" "Of being happy. When you are happy, God can take it away." I pulled her close, felt her body shaking against mine. God already took everything away from both of us. Maybe now he's giving something back. We held each other in that small kitchen while the morning light streamed through the window, two broken people trying to believe we could be whole again. I started sending smaller amounts back to my savings account in Dallas. Started thinking of Manila as home instead of just a place I was visiting. Started believing that love could happen twice in one lifetime. But love, real love, it makes you vulnerable. It makes you stupid. It makes you see what you want to see instead of what's really there. After 3 months together, Milagros brought up marriage. "The neighbors, they talk," she said, "about us living together without blessing from God." "Does that bother you?" "Yes. I am not modern woman. I believe in doing things right way." I'd been thinking about it too. What was the point of being cautious at our age? We'd both lost everything once. Why not take the chance while we still could? "Will you marry me, Milagros?" I asked her that night. She started crying. "Yes, but we must do it properly, in church, with Father Miguel." "Who's Father Miguel?" "The priest at St. Anthony's. He has been good to me since my husband died. He will want to meet you first." We went to see Father Miguel the next week. He was a short, round man with kind eyes who spoke perfect English. "So you want to marry our Milagros," he said, studying me carefully. "I do." "And you understand the commitment you are making. Marriage is sacred in our church. It is forever." "I understand. I was married for 34 years before my wife died. I know what forever means." Father Miguel nodded slowly. "Milagros has suffered much. She deserves happiness." Something about the way he said it felt personal, like he knew her story intimately. But grief makes us all family, I thought. "When would you like the ceremony?" he asked. "Soon," Milagros said quickly, "if possible. Of course, the church will be beautiful. You have played here for many years, Milagros. You deserve a beautiful wedding." We scheduled the ceremony for the following month. Father Miguel walked us through the requirements, the paperwork, the traditional vows. Everything seemed normal, proper, but there was something in his eyes when he looked at Milagros, something I couldn't quite read. "He seems very protective of you," I told her as we walked home. "Father Miguel has been like father to me since my husband died. He helped me with funeral arrangements, with paperwork. He is a good man." "I'm glad you had someone to help you through that." She squeezed my hand. "Now I have you." Our wedding day was humid and bright. I wore the barong Tagalog Milagros had, sewn for me, white and formal with intricate embroidery that must have taken her weeks to complete. She looked stunning in a simple cream dress she'd made herself, her hair pinned up with small white flowers. The church was full of her neighbors and friends from the market. I recognized the faces but not the names. They all seemed genuinely happy for us, calling out blessings in Tagalog, throwing rice as we walked down the aisle. Father Miguel conducted the ceremony in both English and Tagalog, switching languages like he was conducting a symphony. "Do you, Vernon, take Milagros as your wife, to love and honor her in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, until death do you part?" "I do." My voice was steady, certain. "Do you, Milagros, take Vernon as your husband, to love and honor him in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, until death do you part?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "I do." When Father Miguel pronounced us husband and wife, the whole congregation erupted in celebration. Rice fell like rain. Someone started playing guitar. I kissed my new wife and felt like the luckiest man alive. "You may kiss the bride," Father Miguel said, but he was looking at Milagros with an expression I couldn't quite read. Later, at the small reception in her neighbor's yard, I watched Milagros laugh with the other women, while children ran around our feet. She looked radiant, but every so often I'd catch her glancing toward the church with something that looked almost like fear. "Are you happy?" I asked her during a quiet moment, Very happy, she said, but her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Just nervous, big change. Good change, I said, pulling her close, the best change. This was real, I told myself. This was home. This was my second chance at love, blessed by God and witnessed by a whole community. What could possibly go wrong? The problem started small. A week after the wedding, I noticed Milagros having hushed phone conversations in rapid Tagalog, always ending them quickly when I entered the room. My sister, she'd explain. She worries about me, about us, moving too fast. What does she say? She thinks maybe I should have waited longer to make sure you are serious, man. What did you tell her? That you are good, man, that you make me happy. But the conversations continued, sometimes late at night when she thought I was sleeping. I'd hear her voice through the thin walls, urgent and worried. When we walked through the market, vendors would look at us strangely, not unfriendly but confused. Some would call out to Milagros in Tagalog and she'd respond quickly, her face flushing. What are they saying? I'd ask. Nothing important. They ask about the weather, about your health. But one old woman selling fish pointed at me and shook her head, saying something that made Milagros go pale. What did she say? She says you are very lucky, man. That's all. Yes, she thinks all American men are lucky. But the woman's expression wasn't one of someone talking about luck. It was concern, maybe even fear. That Sunday at church, during the service, I noticed Father Miguel watching us during his sermon. Not watching me, watching us together. His expression was unreadable, but there was something heavy in his eyes. When Milagros played the closing hymn, her hands shook on the keys. After Mass, several parishioners approached us. They congratulated me in broken English, but their eyes held questions I couldn't understand. For you are married now, one elderly man said to me. You take good care of Milagros. Of course. She has suffered much. She needs peace now. The way he said it, like he was warning me about something, like there was more to her suffering than just being widowed. 3 weeks after our wedding, everything changed with a phone call. Milagros was in the shower when her phone kept ringing. I'd never answered it before, but it wouldn't stop. Hello? I said in English. Silence. Then a man's voice, speaking careful English. Who is this? This is Vernon, Milagros' husband. Who's calling? Another long pause. I could hear breathing, someone thinking. I think there has been a mistake, the man said slowly. I need to speak with Milagros. She's not available right now. Can I take a message? Tell her Miguel called. My blood went cold. Miguel. That was her dead husband's name. Miguel, I'm sorry, but Miguel is... I am Miguel, the voice said quietly. Her husband. Miguel. The line went dead. I stood there holding the phone, my hands trembling. When Milagros came out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel with water still dripping from her hair, I held up the phone. Miguel called, I said. He said he's your husband. Her face crumpled like paper. She sat down hard on the bed and started crying, not the gentle tears I'd seen before when she talked about missing him, but deep, body-shaking sobs. He is alive, she whispered through her tears. Miguel is alive. I felt the room spin around me. But you told me he died. You showed me funeral pictures. Not funeral. Memorial. We had memorial when he disappeared. But he came back 6 months. Haga. My legs gave out. I sat down hard in the plastic chair by our small table. 6 months ago, before we met? She nodded, unable to look at me. He went to work in Saudi Arabia. Construction. No phone, no letter for 2 years. We thought he died, then he come back. Why didn't you tell me? My voice sounded strange, hollow. Because I love you, Vernon. Because with you, I feel alive again. Miguel, he is different now. Angry. He drink. He hit. She showed me a fading bruise on her shoulder I'd somehow never noticed. I cannot go back to that life. I stared at this woman I'd married, this stranger I thought I knew. So what am I? What are we? We are married, she said firmly. In church, in God's eyes. But also, she couldn't finish the sentence. We are not. I finished for her. She nodded miserably. I am so sorry, Vernon. I never mean for this to happen. He is alive, she kept saying through her tears. Miguel is alive and he wants me back. I couldn't process it. Everything I thought I knew about my life, about our life together, was built on a lie. Not exactly a lie. She'd never said she saw him die. She'd said there was an accident, that she mourned him. All technically true. How long have you known? I asked. That he was back? He came to my apartment in February. Before I met you, he was different. Angry. The desert, it changed him. He drink now, he hit me when he is angry. I was so afraid. So you what? Decided to find an American to protect you. The words came out harsher than I intended, but I was reeling. No, I meet you by accident. You come to church. You are kind. To me, I fall in love with you for real. But you were already married. In my heart, my marriage to Miguel died when he left. When he come back, he was like stranger, like angry ghost. She reached for my hands, but I pulled away. Vernon, please, I love you. What we have is real. What we have is bigamy, I said. What we have is illegal. I know, but I did not know what else to do. I was so afraid of him. I looked at this woman crying in her towel, and I couldn't tell if I was angry or heartbroken or both. Does he know about us? Yes, he found out. Someone from church told him. That is why he called. What does he want? He wants me to come home. He says I am still his wife. He says what we did in church means nothing because I was already married. My head was pounding. Is he right? Legally? I do not know. I never get divorce. In Philippines, divorce is very difficult, almost impossible. So what you're telling me is that our whole marriage is fake. Not fake, she said desperately. Wrong maybe, illegal maybe, but not fake. My love for you is real. But you're not my wife. I'm your wife in every way that matters. In my heart, in God's eyes. Apparently not in God's eyes, I said, because last I checked, God wasn't too fond of adultery. That was cruel, and I saw how it hit her, but I was drowning and cruel words were all I had. Miguel showed up at our door 2 days later. I'd expected a large, angry man, someone who looked capable of violence. Instead, he was small and weathered, with calloused hands and sad eyes. He wore clean work clothes and a baseball cap, and when Milagros opened the door, he took off the cap and spoke to her in rapid Tagalog. I couldn't understand the words, but I could hear the tone, hurt, confused, desperate. She answered him in the same language, and they went back and forth for several minutes while I stood there like a fool, understanding nothing but feeling, the weight of 20 years of history passing between them. Finally, he turned to me. You marry my wife, he said in broken English. I know you not know, but she is my wife. His voice wasn't angry, it was tired, defeated. She told me you were dead, I said. Miguel nodded sadly. I was dead. 2 years in Saudi Arabia, no contact with family, no phone, no letter, construction, work, very dangerous. I think many times I will die there. He looked at Milagros and I saw something pass between them that I couldn't interpret. Saudi Arabia, take your soul, make you dead inside, but I come back. She said you changed, that you became... I searched for the right words. Violent. Miguel's face fell. Yes, I drink now. I get angry. The desert, it do something to your mind. Make you crazy. I hit her one time, only one time, but... He looked at his hands like they belonged to someone else. I am not proud of this. So why do you want her back? Miguel looked surprised by the question. Because she is my wife, because I love her, because without her I am nothing. But you hurt her. Yes. And I am sorry. Every day I am sorry. But we are married 20 years. We have history, we have... He struggled for the English word. Connection. We're married now, I said, but the words felt hollow even as I said them. In church, Miguel said. Father Miguel marry you? Yes. Something changed in his expression. Not anger, but something like sad amusement. Father Miguel is my brother. The floor dropped out from under me. Your brother? My little brother. He know I am alive. He knows Milagros is still married to me, but he also knows she is afraid of me. Miguel looked at his hands, then back at me. Maybe he think if she marry good man, she be safe. Maybe he think love is more important than law. I felt like I was drowning. He knew. The priest knew. You were alive when he married us. Of course he know. I live in his house when I first come back, before I find work, before I find place to stay. Miguel's English was getting better as he spoke, like talking about his pain was unlocking something. He tell me Milagros is afraid. He tell me I should leave her alone until I fix myself. But instead she married me. Yes. But Miguel, Father Miguel, he think maybe this is God's plan. Maybe this is how Milagros can be safe and happy. Miguel looked at me with something that might have been sympathy. He love his brother, but he also love what is right. Sometimes those two things, they fight each other. I sat down heavily on our small couch. So our whole wedding was what? A conspiracy? Not conspiracy, Miguel said. Mercy. Father Miguel, he choose mercy over law. And what do you choose? I asked. Miguel was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was very soft. I choose to let her be happy, even if it kills me. Milagros had been silent through this whole exchange, but now she spoke up in English. Miguel, you do not have to... Yes, I do, he said, still looking at me. I lost you when I went to Saudi. I lost you when I came back angry. I lost you when I hit you. You are not mine anymore. He stood up to leave, then turned back. But Vernon, I want to ask you something. You love her true, not just because she make you feel young again. I thought about Milagros's morning songs, her gentle hands, the way she cried when she read letters from her sister. I love her true. Miguel nodded. Then you take care of her, better than I do. After he left, Milagros and I sat in silence for a long time. Finally, she spoke. What happens now? I don't know, I said. I really don't know. The next morning, I went to St. Anthony's to confront Father Miguel. I found him arranging flowers on the altar, moving slowly like a man carrying a heavy burden. The church was empty except for us, morning light streaming through the stained glass windows. You knew, I said without preamble. You knew she was still married. He didn't look up from the lilies he was arranging. Yes, I knew. Then why did you marry us? Because she asked me to. Because she was afraid. Because sometimes the church must choose between law and mercy. He finally met my eyes. Because sometimes love is more important than paperwork. But it's still bigamy. It's still illegal. Yes, it is, and I will answer to God for that choice. Father Miguel set down the flowers and sat in the front pew, gesturing for me to join him. Miguel is my brother Vernon, my older brother. When we were children, he protected me from bullies, from our father's anger. He worked to pay for my seminary education. So you protected his wife from him. I protected a woman in need. When Miguel came back from Saudi Arabia, he was broken, angry, drinking. He hit her, Vernon. I saw the bruises. Father Miguel's voice was steady, but I could hear the pain underneath. She came to me crying, begging for help. What was I supposed to do? Help her get a divorce. In the Philippines, divorce is almost impossible. It takes years, costs money she doesn't have, and Miguel would never agree. So you helped her commit bigamy instead. I helped her find safety and love. Yes, I broke the law, but I saved her life. We sat in silence for a moment, listening to the sounds of Manila waking up outside. What am I supposed to do now? I asked. That is between you and God, he said. But know this, Milagros's love for you is real. Her marriage to Miguel, that died in the desert, even if the law says otherwise. And if Miguel changes his mind, if he decides he wants her back, then we will deal with that when it happens. But Miguel is a good man underneath all that anger. He wants her to be happy more than he wants to possess her. Father Miguel stood up and went back to his flowers. You have a choice, Vernon. You can walk away from this complicated situation and go back to your simple life in Texas. Or you can fight for the woman you love, even though it's messy and difficult and legally questionable. Some choice. Love is always a choice, he said, and it's rarely simple. That evening, Miguel found me at a small bar near the port. I'd been there for 2 hours, drinking San Miguel beer and staring at the water, trying to make sense of my life. He sat down across from me without invitation and ordered a beer for himself. We sat in silence for a long time, two men who loved the same woman, before he spoke. "You are a good man," he said. "I can see why she chose you." "I didn't know I was choosing," I replied. "I thought she was free." "She is free," Miguel said. "In her heart she is free. Our marriage, it die when I leave for Saudi. I just too proud to bury it." He finished his beer and ordered 2 more. "In Saudi I work 18 hours every day, send money home every month, dream of coming back to my wife, to my life. But when I come back, I am different person, angry person." His voice broke slightly. "I hurt the only good thing in my life. So what do we do?" I asked. Miguel looked at me with eyes full of pain. "I let her go. I sign papers. Make divorce happen, even if it is difficult. But first I want to ask you something." He leaned forward. "You love her true? Not just because she make you feel young? Not just because she take care of you?" I thought about how Milagros hummed while making coffee, how she cried when she talked about her mother, how she saved every peso to send home to her family. "I love her true." Miguel nodded slowly. "Then you take care of her, better than I do. Promise." "I promise. And you marry her again, legal this time. Make sure she is protected." "What about you?" Miguel shrugged. "I find new life. Maybe go back to Saudi. Maybe find work in another country. Maybe learn to live with what I became." He stood up to leave, then turned back. "Vernon, you know what? The hardest thing is not losing her, is knowing that I lost her because I became someone she could not love anymore. That is punishment worse than any divorce paper." After he left, I sat alone at the bar until they closed, thinking about love and loss and second chances, thinking about how sometimes the worst thing that can happen to you is getting exactly what you asked for. The divorce took 3 months and cost more money than I'd expected. Miguel was true to his word. He signed every paper, appeared at every hearing, never fought the proceedings. The lawyers were confused by the situation, but money talks in any language, and we had enough to make the complications disappear. Sometimes I'd see Miguel at church, sitting in the back pew during Milagros's organ performances. He never approached us, just listened to her play and left quietly when the service ended. Milagros and I moved to a small apartment across town while the legal mess sorted itself out. We lived like roommates, pretending to be married, sleeping in separate beds, careful not to touch. The intimacy we'd built was gone, replaced by a strange politeness that felt worse than anger. "Are we still married in your heart?" I asked her one night as we sat at our small table, eating dinner in silence. "I don't know," she whispered. "I feel married to you, but I also feel married to him. How can heart love 2 people at same time?" I didn't have an answer for that. Some nights I'd lie awake wondering if I was a husband, a roommate, or just another man who'd been fooled by a pretty face and a sad story. But then I'd hear Milagros crying softly in the other room, and I'd remember that she was suffering too, that none of this was simple for any of us. "Do you want me to go back to Texas?" I asked her once. "Leave you alone to sort this out?" "No," she said quickly. "Please, no. You are the only good thing in my life right now. Even though everything between us started with a lie, not lie, misunderstanding. I never lied to you about loving you. But you lied about being free to love me." "Yes," she said quietly. "I lie about that because I was afraid you would leave, because I was selfish, because I wanted to be happy more than I wanted to be honest. At least that was the truth. Finally, the truth. Father Miguel married us again on a Tuesday morning in January. Just the 3 of us in the empty church, me, Milagros, and the priest, who'd helped orchestrate this strange love triangle. "This time it is real," he said simply. "Legal and blessed, no complications." But it felt different than the first ceremony. Quieter, sadder, more honest maybe, but less joyful. Milagros wore the same cream dress, but it hung differently on, say, her shoulders like she was carrying invisible weight. When Father Miguel asked if I took her as my wife, I hesitated for just a moment, not because I didn't want to, but because I finally understood what I was really agreeing to. I was marrying not just Milagros, but her guilt, her history, her complicated heart. "I do," I said. She said the same, but so quietly I almost missed it. When Father Miguel pronounced us husband and wife, there was no rice, no celebration, no congregation cheering. Just three people in an empty church, trying to set right something that had gone very wrong. We kissed chastely and walked out into the Manila sunshine as legally married strangers. That night, in our small apartment, we sat across from each other at the dinner table like we had for months. Everything was different now, but also exactly the same. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we learn to be married," she said. "For real this time. How do we do that?" "I do not know," she admitted, "but maybe we start by being honest about everything." "Okay," I said, "I'll start. I'm scared that you'll always love him more than me. And I'm scared that you will never forgive me for lying. And I'm scared that this will never feel real. And I am scared that it will feel too real." We looked at each other across that small table, two damaged people trying to build something good from the wreckage of our complicated lives. It wasn't the fairy tale either of us had imagined, but maybe that was okay. Maybe real love was messier than fairy tales anyway. 6 months later, we're different people, Milagros and I. Not better or worse, just different. More careful with each other, more honest about the strange circumstances that brought us together. She still makes me coffee in the mornings and plays organ on Sundays. I still send money to my account in Dallas and write emails to my sister about my simple life in paradise. But we both know it's not simple. Love never is. Miguel moved to Cebu to work construction. He sends Milagros a Christmas card every year. Nothing romantic, just a picture of whatever project he's working on and a short note about his health. She keeps them in a shoebox under our bed. Sometimes I catch her looking at them and I feel something that's not quite jealousy, but isn't acceptance either. "Do you miss him?" I asked her once, finding her holding a card with a picture of a half-built hotel. "I miss who we were before he left," she said, "but I don't miss who we became when he came back." I think I understand what she means. We're all different people than we were before life broke us down and rebuilt us into something new. Miguel is learning to live with his anger and his guilt. Father Miguel is learning to live with the consequences of choosing mercy over law. Milagros is learning to live with loving two men in two completely different ways. And I'm learning to live with the fact that sometimes love isn't clean and simple and legal. Sometimes it's messy and complicated and morally ambiguous. Sometimes the woman you fall in love with comes with baggage you never expected. Sometimes the priest who marries you is protecting you both from truths you're not ready to handle. Sometimes the man whose wife you accidentally steal turns out to be more gracious than you could ever imagine being in his situation. What I know. Now sitting in this internet cafe 6 months after our second wedding, typing this all out because I need someone to understand. Sometimes love isn't about finding your perfect match. Sometimes it's about finding someone whose brokenness fits with yours in a way that makes you both a little more whole. Milagros and I weren't meant to find each other the way we did. Nobody plans to fall in love with someone else's wife, even accidentally. Nobody plans to marry their husband's brother's blessing while their legal husband sits in the back pew wondering how his life got so complicated. But we found each other anyway, through a maze of grief and lies and good intentions, gone wrong. We're building something real now, brick by brick, day by day. It's not the fairy tale I thought I was getting when I moved to Manila looking for a simple retirement. It's not the clean, uncomplicated love story either of us imagined. But maybe it's better, more honest, more earned, more tested by fire. Father Miguel still performs weddings at St. Anthony's, still chooses mercy over law when he thinks it's right. Miguel still works construction, still drinks too much sometimes, still carries the weight of what 2 years in the Saudi desert did to his soul. And Milagros still plays morning songs while making coffee, but now she knows I'm listening to every note. She knows I'm choosing to stay despite everything, choosing to love her despite the complications, choosing to build a life with her even though that life will never be simple. We're all just trying to find our way back to something that feels like home. Sometimes that journey takes you through some very strange places. Sometimes you have to lose everything you thought you wanted to find what you actually need. Sometimes the priest who saves your life also ruins it. Sometimes the woman who lies to you also tells you the most important truth you've ever heard. Sometimes love requires you to forgive things you never imagined you'd have to forgive. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you find someone willing to forgive you right back. That's what we're doing now, Milagros and I, learning to forgive each other, learning to forgive ourselves, learning that real love isn't about perfect people finding each other. It's about imperfect people choosing each other anyway, day after day, despite everything that should tear them apart. It's messier than the movies. It's more complicated than the songs, but it's real. And at 62, after losing everything once and almost losing it again, real is enough.